So global warming is a topic that brings a lot of heat in a conversation. Usually two sides will quickly abandon all reason and jump at each other's throats.
You are wrong.
Hopefully figuratively. And the whole thing turns into a mess. Now that kind of attitude doesn't do any favors to us, let alone to our planet or future generations. Now one thing that constantly gets brought up, usually by the people who don't believe that humans have anything to do with the climate change, is that the Earth goes through these cycles of cooling and heating all the time, and that there is nothing different with it this time around. Well, to put it simply, they're kind of right, but they're also wrong at the same time. And in this video today, I'm gonna try to tell you why is that the case. Now, before we jump into the topic of the video today, allow me a few minutes to tell you something that I think you may find interesting. Now, as some of you know who've been watching my videos before, I upload regular videos on the subjects of history, science, geography, and so on. Now, this channel, thanks to you, has been growing much faster than I ever expected, but it's still pretty small, so I cannot attract any sponsors at the time. Now, what I decided to do is to browse around, see what interesting products are there online, and then I'm gonna put them down in the pinned comment below, as well as the description. Now, if you find any of these products interesting and you make a purchase, that will immensely help this channel, but as always, don't buy something that you don't need. So go ahead and check that out after this video, and in the meantime, let's go back to the topic. Now, Earth truly has these cycles when it will cool down or heat up depending on the various factors, and these cycles are known in science as Milankovitch cycles. They're named after Serbian mathematician and scientist Milutin Milankovitch, who was responsible for their discovery and calculation. Now, to give a little bit of a context to this, let's talk about him and see what these cycles are all about. Milutin Milankovitch was born to Serbian parents on May 28, 1879 in a small village on the banks of Danube named Daj. Today, this village is in the Republic of Croatia, but back then it was part of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Now, he had a rough start of his life, to say the least. Born with his twin sisters to a family of 7, only to lose his 3 brothers to tuberculosis at a very young age. His father was a local politician and merchant, which had a promise of security and stability for his family, but sadly this wasn't to be, and he died when Milutin was at the age of 8. So left to be raised with his mother, his uncle, and grandmother, his life was to be one of solitude, at least at the early ages. With crumbling health himself, he was bound to homeschooling, learning from his father first, then his uncle and his mother, as well as various teachers that his family was able to come by. Now, after completing the secondary school in Osijek in 1896, at the age of 17, he decided to continue his schooling in one of the capitals of knowledge in Europe at the time, Vienna. He studied civil engineering and graduated in 1908 with the best marks. Now, at this point, Milankovitch knew that he was capable of much more than this. He was particularly obsessed with mathematics, and after a mandatory year of military service, he borrowed money from his uncle and went back to Vienna to study engineering, specifically the use of concrete in modern engineering. He wrote theses on reinforced concrete, specifically its use in curved objects such as bridges and viaducts. After obtaining his PhD in 1904, he worked for multiple firms designing bridges, aqueducts, and other structures from reinforced concrete. Now, at this point, his career was at the beginning of a path of success. He patented many revolutionary ideas in the field of concrete, such as a new type named ribbed ceiling, as well as publishing the first paper on armored concrete. He also proved that the ideal shape of a water reservoir of equal wall thickness is in a shape of a water drop. Now, in 1909, he moved to Belgrade after an invitation to be a professor in the Department of Applied Mathematics of Belgrade University. For him, this was a dream come true, considering his long-time fascination with mathematics. Now, while working at the university, Milankovitch started to notice something that will change his life as well as the science as we know it today. See, the idea that the climate on Earth can be influenced or even determined by astronomical events was not new at all. Several attempts were made in the past by different researchers and climatologists, such as Julius von Hahn, a father of modern meteorology, or John Herschel, an inventor of a blueprint. None of these were completely successful, however, and Milankovitch realized why is this the case. See, all of these were based on assumptions and hypotheses with very little to none applied mathematics. Thus, even though seemingly on the right path, they were not able to make a definitive connection about any of it. Now, realizing this, he got to work, and in his first work, he explained explain how the sun rays determine the surface temperature after passing through the atmosphere. He published the first paper on the subject entitled Contribution to the Mathematical Theory of Climate in Belgrade on April in 1912. In his following work, he developed a mathematical theory on insolation describing different climate zones on our planet. Now, this was groundbreaking. Not only did it allow us to reconstruct the climate through our own history, but it also allowed us to calculate the temperatures on other planets based on their rotation and distance from the sun. Now, soon after this, the war between Austria-Hungary and Serbia broke out, and Milankovitch was arrested while on a honeymoon in his native village of Dalj on the grounds of being a Serbian citizen. His wife went to Vienna and talked to Emanuel Zuber, his mentor at the university. He arranged Milankovitch's release and the right to spend the captivity in Budapest with the right to continue to work. He spent most of the war in Budapest, where among other things he calculated the temperature and climate of Mars while trying to develop a model that can be replicated on other planets in the inner solar circle. He returned to Belgrade after the war, where he published several different papers on the subject of reconstructing the past of the Earth's climate with a precise mathematical model. Now, this brings us to the main topic of the video today, and that is the period of warmer and colder climate on Earth through history known as Milankovitch cycles. Now, this theory put forward by Milutin Milankovitch explains that Earth's orbit, its axis tilt, as well as the direction in which it's pointing all change and oscillate over time, thus creating larger or lower exposure of certain parts of the surface to the sun rays. He put special emphasis on the obliquity of Earth's orbit as the most important factor when it comes to cooling or heating, because it exposes less or more surface in the northern latitudes to the sun, especially in the summertime. Now, according to his estimates, ice ages happen approximately every 41,000 years in a more or less regular cycle. It is important to say that although modern research finds this to be pretty accurate for the last 1 to 3 million years ago, 800,000 years ago, ice age period lengthened to about 100,000 years. Now, this brings us to the most important factor in the modern times. See, all these calculations were referring to the Earth's climate prior to the Industrial Revolution. And even though they do oscillate as we determined before, they do a very accurate predictability for such a long periods of time. Today, however, we are experiencing something never seen before, something that our climate never had to deal before. The temperature rise that we've seen in the last 50 or 100 years used to happen in a period of a 10,000 year scale or more. This is because of green gas emission produced by our activity that acts like an insulator, trapping the heat, thus diminishing the normal periodical processes and their effect. Now, some will point out at the volcanic activity of the past and its massive eruptions that inevitably cause huge amounts of green gases to be released into the atmosphere, thus creating similar effects. This is true, and every single massive eruption caused disturbances in the climate. However, we have volcanoes today as well, but apart from that, we have giant industries from manufacturing, power production, infrastructure building, all the way to vehicles on the roads, planes on the skies, and massive ships on the water. All these are pumping out huge quantities of these gases every day, every hour, every second, with no end in sight. So regardless what do you think about this, you cannot dispute the fact that never before was there a species or a factor that can affect its surrounding and climate itself like we humans can. Now, considering that we are the one who are causing it, we are also the one that needs to figure out a way how to reduce it or stop it altogether. So thank you very much for tuning in today. This means the world to me, especially right now when I'm trying to grow this channel. If you like my content, please consider liking and subscribing or sharing this video. I also have a Patreon account and also have TikTok. If you want to follow me on there, you can go ahead and go down to the description and you can find all those links. Please let me know what you think about this video. Do you have any comments on it, any suggestions, something that you disagree? I don't want this to be a monologue. I want to get into a discussion with you guys. I want to hear what you think about this, because at the end of the day, this is about all of us, and I think that we all get to weigh in our opinion on these kind of subjects. In any case, thank you very much. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.